Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. As mentioned, our guest on the program is William Brazzel. He's been the owner and president of a successful property casualty agency located in New Jersey for the past 30 years with a dream of creating an original science fiction book. Well, he did it. It's titled The Seventh Holy Man, and he's with us to talk about it on This Week in America. It's a gripping story involving a link from ancient civilization to current-day events in the Vatican. It's one of those books you pick it up, you can't put it down. William Brazzel, our guest on the program. William, welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks very much, Rick.
A lot to talk about in the book. It talk about a number of topics, and it's interesting the research that you've done on this. But I want to go back to, I mentioned you've always wanted to do this. And it dates back to 1956. You see a movie in school at Mount Calvary Elementary School. And that really sort of created this interest to actually write a science fiction novel. Talk about that experience and how you've been chasing this dream for most of your life.
Yeah, when I was in third grade in Mount Calvary Grammar School, I saw a movie. They used to take us down once a month to watch a movie in the cafeteria. And I saw this movie called The Day the Earth Stood Still, the original with Michael Rennie. And I was so impressed with the movie, and I was so in awe of the movie that from that day forward I was interested in sci-fi. And I dreamt from probably the age of 20 on to write a book someday on a sci-fi subject. And that's how I got to The Seventh Holy Man.
The book is The Seventh Holy Man. The website for William Brazzel, very simple, sci-fi author Brazzel, and that's BRAZZEL.com. Information available at our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and you can link on directly to Bill's website by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. The book, as mentioned, is called The Seventh Holy Man. Let's talk a little bit about it without giving it away. And I mentioned the link with the Vatican. This all starts off with the Vatican being overrun. Talk about what's going on there.
Well, it takes place in Italy, and in the Vatican what's happening is demonic forces are overtaking the fabric of the church, and Sean Carroll, who's the protagonist, is requested to investigate what's going on in the Vatican, and he finds a cryptic link between an old civilization from 90 BC called Malar. It happened to be a pagan civilization, and what was going on currently in the Vatican. And it becomes very exciting in some spots. There's a little blood and guts in it, not severe, but there's also some possession by demonic forces. One of the characters. There's a couple of deaths and holdups. It's very, very exciting from beginning to end. It just reads fast. It's a novel I created for people to read from teenage to young adult. And it's a quick read, it's a good read, and I've gotten a lot of good reviews on it.
You know, it's interesting. Sometimes you start reading a book, and it takes a while before you really catch on to what's going on and before the author really gets into his groove. You're fast out of the chute on this one. You have our attention right off the bat, don't you?
Exactly right, Rick. Exactly. I wanted to do that for the young readers especially because they seem to be frightened of reading. And if you give them a short read but an exciting read, they're more apt to do that. And if I can convince one young adult or teenager to read, I've accomplished something.
Well, and it's easy to visualize as you're going along, too, and that's something that's a gift as a writer, and it has to make you feel quite proud as you're reading reviews and talking to people, and it's like I can actually see the story evolving as you're reading. It's very easy to follow because there's this almost visual aspect of it.
Well, you know, it's funny. A lot of people say, oh, it's so easy to write sci-fi. Well, you know, it's not so easy. If you do your research properly, yes, you're going to write the sci-fi book that people like you say can feel and see and trying to understand what's going on. I did a lot of research on this book. I did geographical research, historical research. I even used satellites to drop down in certain areas to see the contour, the topography, etc. So many hours, probably half my time was spent researching.
Well, and it's interesting because as you're reading the book, and the book is called The Seventh Holy Man, it really has that sense of realism. Sometimes with sci-fi, and again, maybe people think this is the key to that, you just make stuff up as you go along, and you always get the impression this actually could be very true as you're reading it. Talk about the research, because I know that's something that was really, obviously, a key in writing the book.
Yeah, the reality of the book really comes from the research. I had to look at the Po River Valley to see Malar, where it would be. I had to see the contour topography of the area. So even the trees and the bushes in the area, I had names and identified the biology of them. And I had to do a lot of research in Rome and the Vatican, even some of the buildings, just to find some of the where doors are located. It was just amazing what I learned. It's an education in itself. But I brought all that to the fore in order to put that in the book.
The book is called The Seventh Holy Man. It's available at Amazon all across the country. Also at William's website, William Brazzel, our guest in the program. That's Brazzel. His website is very simple, sci-fi author Brazzel, Brazzel.com. Go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on and get all of that information. Go directly to his website. Let's talk about a little bit of the storyline, because with Sean Carroll, the investigative reporter, as you're talking about, he's really getting a lot of threats and what may be feeling he's stirring up things that he shouldn't stir up. So there's a lot of drama as you're going through what he's attempting to do. That's
correct. Sean is he's been an investigative reporter for many years with the New York International newspaper, and he's got a lot of background. He's done some investigations on the Colombian drug rings, etc. And this one is really puzzling him. He's having a very tough time with it. He does a lot of research with regard to history and trying to tie together some of the old civilizations with what's going on. And he does come upon Malar, where, as I said, it was a pagan civilization. And the demonic forces in that civilization are the ones that link through centuries. It's a very interesting concept where the souls of these individuals link through, like the Germanic tribes and through some of the Italian armies and so on, in the United States, the American armies during World War II. And it finally comes to fruition in Rome and in the Vatican many, many years later.
The book is called The Seventh Holy Man. Why this topic for the first novel? We mentioned that you've been kicking around, you've wanted to do this for a number of years. I'm sure a number of ideas came into your mind, something that you found interesting, a story that you wanted to tell. How difficult was it to go with this story for your first book?
Well, I had a couple different choices, but this book seemed to be the one that would be attractive to people, especially today with demonic possession and a lot of things going on with the Catholic Church. And I've been Catholic since I was born, so I'm very familiar with the Catholic Church. And I just thought that the topic made perfect sense for the current day, and that's why I did choose that. I have a couple of other books, one I'm writing right now, which is called Conflux, and it deals with the paramilitary in the United States and how they unite under one mantra to challenge the U.S. government. And what happens is the Chinese and the Russians back them with equipment and manpower, and it becomes very interesting.
Looking forward to that book. This book is called The Seventh Holy Man. Explain the significance of the title.
Well, there are seven men who are known as the Holy Men. They represent the seven spirits of God. And one of the holy men had been killed in the beginning of the book. And they're seeking a new holy man. And it takes them a long time to find the proper person. There's got to be purity, etc., associated with this individual. And finally, they found that individual. But he's not revealed until the end of the book.
Interesting. So we're going to have to get the book, and you will enjoy the book. It's called The Seventh Holy Man. Available at Amazon, at William's website, which is very simple, sci-fi author Brazzel, Brazzel.com. In talking about writing, I mentioned that this is something that you wanted to do for a number of years, and finally the time was right. Talk about that, because there's so many people that think, I would really like to do this, and they start and they get distracted, and you had, a family, a very successful business that you were involved in. When did you realize, okay, I've got the time to do this properly now?
It was nearly 3 years ago. We have a house at the shore, and we go down for the month of August. And I finally decided, I said, I've got a whole month ahead of me. Let me begin the process. And I started to write at that point. And I disciplined myself every day to do 3 hours of writing every single day. And I carried it through when I came back in September, and I've been writing ever since. So I'll get up in the morning at 5 o'clock, and I'll do an hour and a half's writing, and I'll come home at night, and I'll do another hour. So it's really discipline, and if you really want to do it, you'll find a way of doing it.
Once you start the process, is it difficult to turn it on and off? You mentioned the time you sort of give yourself that I'm going to do this. I think it would be difficult to go, okay, hour and a half, it's time to go on to something else and to shut the switch off and not go back and be thinking about the characters and the plot that you've developed.
Never. I constantly love to write. I've just loved writing for a long time, and I just enjoy it. It's my release, basically, Rick, and I love to do it every day, and I make sure I do it every day because it is my enjoyment.
Who are some of the writers that you enjoyed and enjoy reading that maybe had some influence on your writing style?
Hemingway was a good influence, and there have been a couple of others. I'm trying to think of some of the other writers that I've had, but I have had some influence, not in the sci-fi area. Actually, they were in other areas of writing, other fictional areas. The sci-fi is something I've adapted, but I've used some of their guidelines in writing about history and so on to adapt that to my sci-fi book.
The book is called The Seventh Holy Man. It's available all across the country. Information available at the website for William Brazzel, our guest on the program tonight. It's sci-fi author Brazzel, BRAZZEL.com. Link on directly with our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Fascinating with a relatively new pope and the fact that you've got the Vatican and this whole story worked in there. What are some of your thoughts with Pope Francis? And it's sort of interesting, the old school and the new school that we keep hearing about.
Well, he's a progressive, and he's been accused of a number of things which I don't agree with. I think he's refreshing. He's trying to bring, I think, Christ back into the lives of the members of the church as well as the priests, who I think some of them have gone astray. But basically, the Pope, I think, represents some of the characters in this book, and his kindness and his feelings, and I just kind of think he's a guiding influence, I think, for me in some respects, and I really enjoy following him. He, oddly enough, is very into demonic possession. It's something I've read a lot about him, and he seems to be very concerned about it. In fact, in this current day, they have added a number of priests who cast out the demons, and I am very surprised that he's taken it this far. They've gone from 10 priests in the United States 10 years ago to 50 priests now who do it, and they're all trained in Rome.
Interesting. I did not know until I was reading that he's that involved in that area. We hear some of what happens in the world and his position on a number of issues that make the headlines, but something that he's doing sort of behind the scenes on a daily basis. It is in fact interesting. The book we're talking about is called The Seventh Holy Man. Science fiction written by our guest on the program, William Brazzel. His website is sci-fi-author-brazzel.com. You're talking about the new book, and something that's interesting as you're reading this book and sort of getting an idea what you're doing in the next book, you like to do something that's different, right? Something that's going to catch us a little off guard. It's not the typical book, the sci-fi book that we read all the time.
Exactly. People rehash some of the old sci-fi stories, and I don't want to do that. I want to make it fresh. I want to make it exciting, and I just want people to enjoy it. And I'm not in it for the money, although the money is a nice thing to get, but I really want people to enjoy the stories that I tell and remember and want to read them over and over.
What's it like when you start getting feedback, when you read the reviews online? You hear people that are possibly friends, possibly customers that say, I read that book and I really enjoyed that. What's that like when you start getting feedback from your work?
It makes me feel good. It makes me feel good. I mean, there are some people who will write negatively, but for the most part, most of the people who read this book have been 100% with it. They really enjoyed it. They said it's a fast read, like you said before, and it's an easy read. So, but it's the emotion in seeing those is gratifying.
What's it like too? There's always the entertainment factor that I'm reading this, I'm really enjoying it. But as you read the book, The Seventh Holy Man, there are really some things that you stop a little bit and you give it some thought. It's a thought-provoking book. Mm-hmm. Was that part of the intention that I want to entertain here, but maybe if people give this a little thought and do some thinking along the way, that's a good thing as well?
Well, there's some undercurrent in my book, presenting subtle things about the church. I'm a religious person, and I like people to think about God and think about spirituality, and some of that subtlety is put in my book. I'm not trying to convert people, but just throw out ideas about different things happening in the religion.
William Brazzel, our guest on the program. His last name is spelled Brzzel. That's important because his website is sci-fi-author-Brazzel.com. Information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. I mentioned that you, along the way, wrote a couple of op-ed pieces, a couple of unpublished short stories. Mm-hmm. Talk about going from short stories to doing a book like The Seventh Holy Man. Do you like the long form better?
I do. It was a monumental jump, I've got to tell you, because you have to be able to extend your ideas out a bit. Short stories, you condense everything. But in this book, I was able to condense everything with the ideas that I did have throughout. It was a good feeling that I could do that. I didn't want to bore people with just words. A lot of authors write, and they just add verbiage in there that, they want to make it pretty. I just wanted to tell a story.
When you started with this concept, did you outline it? Did you know how you were going to end it and sort of figure out how you get there, or was this something that evolved as you were writing?
Well, I knew the beginning, and I knew I had an idea at the end who was going to be the Seventh Holy Man, and I filled in a lot of the characters and so on as I was going and as I was doing my research. So I didn't have a clear idea of the whole book. I did have a clear idea of the beginning and the end. And I was able to fill in very well the middle of the book so that people could see the contour of the story.
What was it like when you finished the book? Was there satisfaction? Was there some feeling of sadness possibly that, boy, it's over. All this effort that I put into this, all the hours of research, it's done, and I'm leaving the story alone now, and it's up to the public to pick it up from here?
That's a great question, Rick. No, I didn't feel that way. What I did feel, I wanted to get into my next book. I had an idea for the next book, and I had finished what I wanted to do. I felt good that I had done it. It's like doing a project for school, but there's a little bit longer project than you do in school.
Yes.
But I wanted to get into the next book because I already had my ideas formulated. I had made some notes and done a little research. So I didn't regret, or I was just happy to have it done and to go on to the next book.
You're almost done, I understand, with the second book. How difficult a process is that when you're almost done in terms of, finishing it up, going back, doing the fine-tuning, maybe going back objectively? You talked before about maybe sometimes authors have a little too much wordage in there, going back and cutting on that. How difficult is it at the end of the book to finally be something you're satisfied with and say, okay, this is ready for publishing?
Well, that's a long process, but along the way, you don't forget, when you get toward the end of the book, you've got to really come up with the ideas of how you're going to end it.
Yes.
And what I'm doing in this next book is I'm doing a lot of research on geography, naval plants out throughout the Chinese and Japanese area. I have to do all the research on that, the topography, and I still have a lot more research to do, but sometimes it gets difficult. The research can wear me down. But I always have an idea where I'm going. Always have an idea. It's just how you fill it in.
The book we're talking about is The Seventh Holy Man. Our guest on the program is William Brazzel. His last name is spelled Brazzel. The website is sci-fi-author-Brazzel.com. The book's available, of course, at his website at Amazon. You can get information by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Bill, it's been a pleasure to have you on the program. Congratulations on a successful first book, and love to have you back here shortly and talk about the second book. I can't wait to read it.
Rick. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. You're listening to This Week in America. Information on the program, and you can click on directly with William's website and get more information on the Seventh Holy Man by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us.